Hi, everyone. We are here with Bailey Ruskus, who's also known as Chef Bay, and she is a seasoned chef, holistic nutrition and health coach who is classically trained at Le Cordon Bleu in San Francisco. She now uses her culinary expertise to create rich flavors with clean, nourishing ingredients. She's also an advocate for people with chronic health ailments, animal welfare, and the environment. And it was her own plant-based journey that started her desire to heal her chronic pain from endometriosis after exhausting all other options. So now she hosts virtual cooking classes in her online membership, and she hosts corporate wellness programs around the globe and so much more. So I'm really excited to share her with you guys today. Welcome,
Hi.
Bailey.
Thanks. Great intro. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Not gonna lie, that took me 3 takes, you guys, but we're here. Bailey, thanks for joining us. You were with us on the last year of you, the little reset mini that we did in the summer. And I'm so excited to share you and your wisdom with everybody because, you know, I've been on a plant-based journey for years myself, and it's really hard for me to explain to people like why and all of the benefits I've received from it. So today we're going to talk about breaking up with dairy.
Yeah.
Woohoo. So first, you want to just start by sharing with people real quick a little bit more about you, what you're up to, and anything else that I didn't kind of mention in the bio that you want to share.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a professional plant-based chef. I actually just came out with my first cookbook, Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. So that came out in August of 2021, and it actually became a #1 Amazon bestseller, which is insane.
Yay!
And so amazing, but it just goes to show how many people are really looking forward to eating more plants and to going to more plant forward, and more than anything, just being more open-minded about something completely new and completely different than what, society tells us to do. And I just work with people one-on-one, and I'm on my own health journey, like you said. So it's always like a process of learning and unlearning and being gracious and kind and compassionate with myself, because I think that's where you have to start in order to kind of go on a healing journey, because you cannot heal others or try to heal the environment or be passionate about other things if you don't have the capacity to go there first with yourself. So it's always this process of being out there with everyone and my clients and community and followers, but also learning how to go inward and do daily check-ins and be like, okay, where are we at when I'm talking to myself, and having like those polarities of having that big external audience and that internal audience. So that is my big goal for 2022 myself, is to be really focused on my own health as well.
I love it. Yeah. It literally starts with you. And if we're not feeling good or authentic or, connected to ourselves, what we do in outside of us isn't going to be able to be as impactful. So
exactly.
I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about dairy. And we actually talked briefly about this yesterday, but I feel like dairy can often be like the hardest part for people when they're trying to switch to plant-based. And I know it was actually the hardest part for me when I switched. But yeah, do you want to just dive into it from there?
I mean, dairy is so hard because, first of all, everybody loves cheese for multiple reasons. Like, people love eating fat, right? That's like the standard American diet is fat, salt. So we love that flavor. Cheese is also like chemically addicting. So there's that. And milk products are snuck into everything. Like, I bet you didn't know that there's milk powder in Pringles, or, milk powder in most chai tea. So it's kind of hard to get around using milk products, because you really have to be very committed to reading nutrition labels. And I think that in itself can be very daunting for a lot of people. And the reason why we want to break up, there's so many reasons why we want to break up dairy. I feel like we could talk for hours about that. But there's 3 reasons I always think about: our health, animal welfare, and the environment. So we can look at, breaking up with beef. I think, like, eating beef itself, like eating the actual animal, I think that's where people go first. I think they break up with pork and beef first. It's kind of like a good first kind of like entry point to being pescatarian or vegetarian, is kind of beef and pork out. I mean, there's so many studies that talk about that. But the thing is, and it's so funny because on my podcast, I interviewed this expert, Dr. Clapper, and he talks about how, the dairy farm is just a quick stop on the way to the slaughterhouse. So no matter what happens, dairy cows will always be slaughtered for meat. So when you look at that from an animal welfare perspective, even if you're eating dairy and not eating meat, technically you're still supporting a slaughter industry. So that's like one reason. If you're in it for the animals, I feel like we all go into plant-based for different reasons, And then I think when you start to think more about the bigger picture, then all of the other reasons start flooding in. When you look at our health, especially as women, breast cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, endometriosis, PCOS, Hashimoto's, cystic acne, heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, all of these things become at such greater risk when you consume dairy every single day. And things like breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, you have an 80% higher risk of getting those things if you consume dairy on a daily basis. And those statistics to me are crazy because like my grandma died of ovarian cancer. I have endometriosis and I ate more cheese than probably anyone that I know. And so to say that those things aren't connected is definitely just not, it's not true. Everything's connected, right? So when we look at our risk, and for men too, like eating dairy every day increases your risk of getting prostate cancer by 80%. Prostate cancer is massive, right? Like it takes over so many people's lives, cancer in general. And when we look at cancer and think about cancer, and of course, I'm a chef, I'm not an endocrinologist. Like I know where my credentials lie, but I have, talked to so many doctors and done so much research. When we look at cancer, it's advertised as this thing that's like, oh, it's this mysterious thing. We don't know where it comes from, but we kind of do. Like there's so many toxins in our day-to-day life. There's so many toxins in our food. And of course, a lot of that comes from chemicals and processed foods and all those things, but also a lot of that comes from the standard American diet, which is riddled with dairy. So by just being able to get rid of dairy, you're decreasing your risk for so many different ailments by so much. And honestly, you feel so good. Like, what was your experience breaking up with dairy? How did you feel when you finally kicked it?
Well, I've always struggled with acne. And actually, when
Yeah.
I decided I had been plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was, what's it called? Pescatarian. I ate fish.
Right. Yeah.
Then I went back to eating meat and dairy. Well, I ate dairy the whole time. Then I went back to eating meat. And then I decided for over 4 years ago to go fully plant-based again. And I noticed not only did my acne get way better, but my like wrinkles.
Yeah.
Like I had more wrinkles when I'm in my early 30s now. I had more wrinkles in my late 20s than I do in my early 30s. Definitely. And I attribute a lot of it to eating plant-based.
Yeah. And of course, there's a lot to be said for eating fried foods and eating lots of sugar. And of course, there's like so many different avenues that we could talk about. But for the sake of just this topic for dairy, it's something that's in so many things that if we're able to actually rid it from our lives, we have no idea how good we can really feel. And the reality is that like 80% of people are lactose intolerant. And they like a lot of people know that, or they know that they get indigestion or bloating or inflammation when they eat dairy, but we continue to do it because it's just so embedded in our society. And then the other thing is the environment, of course. 60% of the grains that we grow go to feed livestock. And part of that livestock is dairy cows, right? And it's also like the methane that they produce, the amount of water that goes into it. And so it's just kind of like a no-brainer choice. And especially if you're not ready to give up fish or chicken or whatever, I think something that is really impactful and powerful and can make the switch over to plant-based even easier is if you decide to give up dairy first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I saw this video on YouTube. It's this channel. I can never say the name. It's like Kazakh something. I'll link it on the landing page for you guys. I'll link this video. Exactly. Anyway, it talks all about sustainability and basically what you just said, all of the livestock and the deforestation that happens and all of that. Even if we got all of our fruits and veggies shipped all the way across the world, that impact would not be as big as the cattle farming industry.
Right.
It's huge. Yeah.
Right. And, I think an argument that people, I don't know if it's a good argument, but an argument that people say is that, well, like, we tear down rainforests to grow soy and corn, But the reality is that 60% of all of those grains and those crops are going to feed livestock. So we wouldn't need nearly as much land as we do when we go to feed livestock. And the other reality is that most of the grain and most of the food that goes to feed livestock is genetically modified and sprayed with pesticides. So when we look at the environment and we look at, like you and I living in San Diego can buy as much organic produce as we want, right? Because it is the right thing to do for the environment. However, if we still have this massive need for animal products that have a massive need for food, that need is going to be fulfilled by heavily sprayed crops because that's the only way to get it to them in such a high quantity. That's the most cost effective. I mean, that's the reason why they invented GMO crops and pesticides, was to create bigger, more long lasting, more hardy crops that lasted through all different kinds of seasons, through all different things. And so you're also getting like those chemicals in the things. Like there's just like the chain reaction is so ginormous. And of course, it can feel really overwhelming too when you think about all of these things. You can think like, well, am I really going to make a difference? Like just me quitting dairy? And that's the thought that I had, like I was not an author at the time. I did not have a big following at the time. I was just a private chef doing my thing, suffering with endometriosis when I decided to go plant-based. And I was so rocked by how much it changed my life, by how I was able to get off all my prescriptions, by how I was never going to the emergency room anymore, that I had to share my message. And now I've impacted like thousands and thousands of people. Like I get thousands of DMs of people saying like, you inspired me to go plant-based. So with that said, like your daily actions matter because people notice, the people around you matter. And if 10 people can make a ripple effect and affect at least one person, then that's 100 people right there, or they affect all 10 people. That's thousands and thousands of people that we can affect. So instead of thinking, especially moving into a new year, like, oh, it's just me, what does it matter? It matters everything. Like you matter so much, and the choices that you make matter so much for you, the world around you, your local community, your bigger community. And there's just like such a bigger picture, and there's so much value in just like you as one person.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine if 25% of the world's population, or let's say 25% of the United States population, decided that they, decided that they, like their impact matters, right? That they could make an impact. That would be huge.
Right.
And obviously not everyone, that's why I kind of reverse back. Not everyone can choose where they're getting their food from. We know this, but those of us who are privileged enough to be able to choose need to take responsibility and take that action. Like
exactly.
Simple as that.
Right. Because we do vote with our dollars. And I mean, the bigger reality is that corporations need to be pressured in order to change like what they're doing. And I don't think they have enough pressure right now, but I do think, I mean, a very good example of a corporation that feels pressure is the dairy industry, going back to this. So if you know Miyoko from Miyoko's Butter, she just had a huge legal battle with the dairy industry for calling her butter butter. And she ended up winning, and now she can call her butter butter. And she posted the day that she won like the most hilarious video of her just singing the word butter as she's like melting her butter. That's not real butter. But like the point is that our choices. So the point is that the fact that there's just as many, if not more, plant-based milk products than there are like cow milk products just goes to show that as consumers, we're making like a massive difference, and we're changing the way corporations are thinking about selling products. And so I think we just have to keep going. And if you want to get on this train, on this mission, like let's go. Like let's do it. Like come on, let's go. And of course,
come on over.
Yeah, like, and of course, like transitioning was hard as hell. It's very, very hard to transition and to go completely against the grain. Like it is against everything we've ever been taught, ever been told. It's just like, it's not easy to do something that's completely different than societal norms, but it is worth it. It's like the most worth it thing ever. And it can open you up spiritually. It can open you up emotionally. It can heal your body. Like there's so many, the benefits much, much, much outweigh anything else. And yeah, if you've never tried, I highly recommend trying and just seeing what happens.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned having an open mind, and
Yeah.
this is like what this event's about. Like, come on in, learn everything.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with you on any degree, take a deeper look and maybe give it a try. Like, we don't need to do what we've been conditioned to think we should do. We need to do what feels right to us. And sometimes what feels right is hard at first, but
Mm-hmm.
as we both know, once you get into the groove, it's just like eating what everybody else eats to you. Like, you just learn how to substitute, you learn how to cook, and then it's easy again. So with
Exactly.
that, will you give people some tips, like how they can start to switch over and substitute?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, so the first thing to do is to just pick one thing to swap. So whether it's like your milk or your coffee creamer, like try to do something that you have the most that's not cheese. So if you like love your coffee creamer, then your goal should be to find a different coffee creamer that's plant-based. So once you lock that in, then it's to go for the next thing, which whether it's like sour cream or mac and cheese or whatever, just like find just one thing at a time. And I think like the last thing you should tackle is cheese because that's always the hardest. And I think if you kind of are able to go in more baby steps like that, and there's obviously two different kinds of people in the world because some people do really well going in baby steps and some people do really well going cold turkey. But no matter, and that phrase actually as a vegan is so funny to say, going cold turkey, like what does that even mean? Think about
I feel like
it.
it's kind of fitting, like cold turkey, no more turkey for me.
Yeah, like
I don't
I'm
know.
good on that. That's
But I
so
don't know what
funny.
it means. Yeah.
Oh my God, I never thought about that. Um, but yeah, it's just like no matter what, find swaps. Just because you're breaking up with dairy doesn't mean that you can't have a delicious coffee creamer, or doesn't mean that you can't find an amazing, like Miyoko's mozzarella is the bomb. It melts so well. It's the best. I love it so much. So it doesn't mean that you can't find amazing alternatives. And that's why I created the Breaking Up with Dairy series on TikTok, which has gotten like a lot of a lot of opinions all over it now because it did go viral. But it was basically the whole reason was to inspire people to do something different and to just give tons and tons of recipes to where you're like, oh my God, I could totally do this. For instance, like I have a stroganoff recipe that's so good and totally dairy free, totally meat free. And usually stroganoff has like heavy cream and beef in it. And this is like totally vegan and it's amazing. Or like a ranch buffalo, like no chicken dip, or like a sour cream
Mm.
recipe, or I have a butter recipe in my cookbook. And so there's really like there's a swap for everything. Like honestly, everything. Only one I'm trying to do is God, what was it? I have a brie recipe, so that's taken care of, and a
Wow.
mascarpone recipe, which is also like so good too. There was one that someone challenged me to. Oh my God, I can't remember what it is, but I haven't been able to perfect it yet. But like we're almost there. Like I feel like the vegan world is almost there, and there's swaps for everything. And I think if you've made up your mind, right, but you feel like you have this like internal pull going back and forth, like when you go shopping you're like, oh, but I kind of want that, but like, oh, you have this like kind of internal battle when you're grocery shopping. I think the biggest thing to do is go back to like your why. Always go back to whether it's your code of ethics, you just like don't want to be involved in that industry anymore, or whether it's for your health, or whether you like really want to like go double down on your environmental impact. Whatever it is, when you're at the grocery store and you're having, or you're at dinner with your friends or whatever, and you're having that like internal battle, just take a deep breath and go back to why you're doing it. And that should be able to like carry you through that moment into the next one. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The why is so huge. And I think with anything, if we can have our why be outside of ourselves,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's for your health, but maybe
Right.
it's for the environment or animals, or usually if it's something outside of ourselves, it's like kind of easier to like
Yeah.
commit to. I found that at least. But if you're having major health problems, that should be a
That's
big
a great
why.
why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I want to feel good. And it takes a long time. Like if you're having health problems and you're listening to this, like it takes a long time to feel better. Like it doesn't just happen overnight. And some things can like for me, like my digestion got better within 2 weeks of going plant-based. So there are certain things that get better quickly, but if you're looking at like a chronic long-term health situation, sometimes it takes longer, and you just have to be okay with that, because we're not taking like a quick fix. We're not taking a pill to make all the symptoms go away. We're trying to heal root causes, and that just takes longer. So patience is a must.
A
It's a
virtue,
must.
a
Yes,
turkey.
it's a turkey.
That's such a good reminder. I'm really glad you said that, because that was one of the things I was going to ask. Did it take you a while to notice differences? But
Yeah, I mean, within a month, I felt great. I felt like a different person. I was like, it felt like my energy field had just like opened up. Like, I can't explain it. Just like when they say the veil lifts, it really felt like a veil had lifted, this like cloudy. And it's not like I knew I was in that before, but once I got clear, I was like, whoa, I'm clear. Like, I'm seeing the world in a way that I never saw it before. And it took about 6 months. So I got off birth control and hormone replacements because for my endo and all my painkillers and stuff within like a month. And then within 6 months, I had detox off my birth control, which I was on birth control from the time I was 11 to 25. So it's like a lot of hormones to
wow.
detox and get out of your body. So, but yeah, it took about 6 months to like fully detox everything out. And like, I still feel like, 4 years later, I'm on a healing journey. I still feel like, okay, I have things to learn. But that's kind of the point. Like, once you commit to your healing journey, it's not like, okay, I went plant-based, like everything's figured out. It's kind of like, okay, I've decided to use this lifestyle as a tool to work with me and my healing journey for however that looks like.
Yeah, I love that. And we always
Yeah.
talk about that with like our mental and spiritual healing, but it's the same with your body. It's like
Yes,
layers to our wellness and our healing. And if you
exactly.
don't feel good in your body, you're not going to feel good mentally. You're not going to be able to live your purpose and make the world a better place. It just, your body is your vessel, and it has to be, you're working towards it to like prime it to be the
Mhm.
best you that you can possibly be. And if you're not feeling like that way, this is an opportunity to make some changes and see what happens, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. There's so much opportunity. And the thing is, too, if you decide like this is your year and you want to go plant-based, you want to give up dairy, you want to be more plant-focused, just take it one day at a time. Like, and if you mess up or you have a slip up, like it's okay. Don't get super down on yourself. Just try to plan your meals and like do things for your future self that will make your life a little bit easier. But first and foremost, just have compassion for yourself so that it's a little bit easier, because it's hard to make changes when we're also being really hard on ourselves, because it just feels like everything's coming at you. So if you can just take a deep breath and like just know that it's all going to be okay. And just take it one day, one meal at a time, one shopping list at a time, it won't feel as overwhelming.
Yeah. It took me like 6 months to actually stop like cheating on it, if you want to call it cheating. But
You're like, yeah, I'll have the sushi roll. Yeah.
well, no, for cheese, actually. Like I went
Yeah.
to a wedding right after, and I was like, well, there's
Just like,
literally nothing else for me to eat. So
right. Yeah, totally.
but okay, you brought up the Miyoko's brand, which is one of my favorites. But do
She's
you
so
want to
good.
give
Yeah.
us some of your other favorites? Like if there's a
Yeah.
favorite coffee creamer, butter,
I don't really know about
cheese.
coffee creamer because I don't drink coffee. I'm like a total freak like that. But I do have the cashew hemp milk in my cookbook, which is an amazing coffee creamer. Cheese, I love Miyoko's. I love I'm trying to think. I actually just had Borson, the cheese, the like spreadable
Oh,
cheese. The like old Borson spreadable cheeses from like,
a long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
PV, and
Okay.
they're like in a round thing. They
Hmm.
just came out with the dairy-free cheese through Trader Joe's, and it's so
Oh,
good. It's so good. And actually, Trader Joe's has a really good vegan meltable mozzarella, which I like. Um,
nice.
and Parmella's is really good. I really like Follow Your Heart feta cheese. That one's delicious. The Miyoko's butter is by far the best. The Milkadamia butter is really good too. Really
Ooh.
good. And then when it comes to oat milk, always buy organic oat milk. So I actually don't buy Oatly because there's so many pesticides and chemicals in Oatly. So I'm always trying to buy organic oat milk. And that's something I started doing like 6 months ago because I was like, who said it? I think, yeah, my husband was like, dude, I just was reading about like all the chemicals and pesticides in Oatly's oat milk. And I can't believe we've been drinking this for as long as we have. I'm like, oh my God, like, why didn't
Oh
we think about
no.
that?
I
I know
have
your
to.
face. You're mortified right now. Like, I gotta go.
I need to go empty out my fridge. And I buy Oatly because it doesn't, I like the is it Califia, that brand, but it comes in all
Yeah.
plastic. So I usually buy like Oatly because it comes in at least the
Yeah.
carton.
So
So,
actually Sprouts brand, just like Sprouts came out with an organic oat milk. That's good.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
So I
sure
go
it's
for that one.
cheaper.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
much cheaper. And it's
Yeah.
totally organic. It has like half the amount of ingredients. So, but I always say like make your own. It's cheaper to make your own, especially when we're talking about milks. Like it's so much cheaper. Just buy a blender and that's like the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have well, how do you make oat milk? You just blend
You
it
just
up
blend
and
oats. Yeah.
clearly I haven't done it.
You literally you just blend oats with dates and salt and you just strain it out through a bag and that's it. Super easy. Yeah. But I like making cashew hemp milk because you don't have to strain it. I'm like not a fan of straining.
That sounds so good. And that's in your cookbook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, is there anything else on breaking up with dairy that we didn't cover that you want to go into before we
I
sign off?
don't know. I feel like I covered so much in such a short amount of time, but just know that like when you're doing something different, you're going to get a lot of slack from a lot of people. Like for me personally, I'm getting a lot of slack online from dairy farmers for my breaking up with dairy video. And I think the reality is that when you're doing something different, when you're challenging societal norms, when you're choosing a life of nonviolence or a life of compassion, people that choose differently are going to have things to say. So whether that's your family, your friends, your coworkers, but you just have to stay strong. You just have to stay true to you and try to just lead with compassion in the conversation that you have with them too. And lead with a way that's like, how can I contribute to this conversation in a way where this person's going to learn something instead of just having to be right? Because that's a big thing that I learned in going plant-based is just learning how to communicate like why I was doing it or how to like fight off haters or whatever, because it's just bound to happen. Like it will happen if you decide to go all in. So just stay true to you. And yeah, if you're not going against the grain, or if you are going against the grain and people are just always gonna say something, like everyone
Yeah.
always has to say something. So yeah, just realize that you're doing this for you and it doesn't matter if people agree or don't agree or whatever they say.
Beautifully said. Yeah. And those in your life who love you and care about you, eventually they'll
They'll
get
come
it.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Mhm.
can attest to that. It can
Yeah.
take some time.
But they'll come
um,
around.
yeah. Yeah. So will you remind them of what your book is called, where they can find it?
Yeah.
I'll link everything in the landing page for them too.
Yeah, of course. My cookbook's called Cook, Heal, Go Vegan. It's actually the perfect place to start if you're new to the plant-based world. And I'm actually selling signed copies of the cookbook on my website. So it's www.chefbay.kitchen/cookbook. And then I also teach cooking classes virtually. So if you're looking for a little bit more direction and you want to just hang out with me and cook together on Zoom, we teach those like once a month coming up in the new year. So, and I'm going to be doing lots of programs and stuff. So everything that you can find that I'm doing, I'm going to have a breaking up with dairy program I'm actually working on right now. So if you want to break up with dairy together, just follow me on Instagram at chef_bay.
Amazing. And you're chef_bay on TikTok as well?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. And do you know
Cool.
what your freebie is? Or we're still figuring that out?
We're still figuring that out, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Okay. I
Okay,
will put it
cool.
on the landing page and you guys can get that freebie because whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's going to be amazing.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. Definitely.
Well, thank you, Bailey. And I'm going
Thanks.
to link your last recording from the last year view there as
Perfect.
well, because that one was amazing too. So you guys get your fix.
Yes,
Of
all
Chef
things
Bay.
Chef Bay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.